Terrific. Well, thank you so much for having us on your show. Um, Addition, I now run Draper Associates, which is another one that I founded. So just to make it clear. So I was the founder of DFJ. I am now the founder of Draper Associates. And through the Draper Venture Network, I'm a part of Draper Goren Home. And it's great to be on the show with Alon.
Hey, yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having us, everyone. And really, yes, I'm one of the founders of Draper Goren Home. We invest in early stage blockchain startups, and actually, Alex has joined us as well. He's the senior editor at Cointelegraph. Thanks for having us, Alex, and the whole Unitize team. Alex, can you hear us?
Oh, here for Alex. I think he's got a delay or he's not hearing us. Anyway, we're thrilled to be here. We think that this is a revolution in new technology that's going to transform some of the biggest industries in the world. And we just love crypto. We love what it does. We think the blockchain is going to transform the system that we have of accounting and legal, and smart contracts are going to take over the whole legal world. And this is going to be an amazing transformation over the next 10 years. Now I see that I've frozen on the screen.
I can hear and see both of you guys.
I don't know.
Or I can see you. Alex, I can't hear you.
Did I freeze? On my Alon?
I can see you perfectly.
Alex? And I just went off on how great Bitcoin and blockchain are.
I heard you. If you can hear me,
good.
Then we're rocking.
Oh wait, Alex, you're finally on. Speak.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the time zone difference and like the fact that we're on different sides of the world. Yeah, sorry, I kind of had to jump off in order to reload. But yeah, I'm glad to be back, and I'm really excited to be part of this conversation and to have a chance to pick your brains on sort of the biggest issues around investing in early stage startups and blockchain firms. I mean, I don't know what you've been discussing, but let me just jump into like the first question that I've prepared essentially for you too. Is why for you sort of investing in blockchain is sort of the main interest, and what are the main concerns that you would have when you come across an exciting small project?
So, Alon, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I think we all know Tim just was talking a little bit about Bitcoin before you came on, but I think Bitcoin sort of drove us all in here, and we have a lot to say about it, and we're very, very obviously all in on Bitcoin and what it can do and transform how it could transform the world. I think that sort of this inspired so many incredible companies and products, whether it's in the DeFi space or even in gaming. We just saw that epic commercial for a minute before we started that pumped me up. But we also have this opportunity from the technology side, people building smart contract and infrastructure and things like that. And I think that when you look at the world, some of these products don't feel like they're ready for mainstream adoption, but you can almost analogize it to like JavaScript and go like, well, JavaScript isn't ready for mainstream adoption, but my mom doesn't know that it's a JavaScript pop-up on Facebook that's taking in her information to share with her grandkids, right? So for me, those early stage companies are what's going to build the infrastructure for the future that will actually make it so that we can really change the world with this technology. I think it'll be those small companies that really do it.
And for me, I think it came because I got to see the internet and how it transformed the world. It opened up free markets around the world. The world became wealthier, and the people of the world became healthier and happier, and their bellies were full, and they were much better. They were in much better living conditions. They started travel. They were all connected through a smartphone, and so if they didn't know how to do something, they could always go to the smartphone and figure out how to do something. It opened up the world. Well, I look at this as, and that opened up the world, and it transformed communications, information, gaming, entertainment, number of different great industries. But when Bitcoin came along, and you thought about Bitcoin as a currency, as a global currency, the blockchain as a vehicle to keep perfect records, and smart contracts as a way to rethink contracts and how contracts operate and how contracts can be set in stone, literally. They can those can transform the biggest industries of the world, and those are and you're seeing it already in banking. You're seeing that people are much happier banking with I don't have one with me, something like this, where they put all their money on a ledger or something, than they are banking with that guy who's dressed like this, and he works out of a big glass and steel building, and you wonder where that money came from for him to build that. Now you've got a proven, trusted third party that is going to transform banking. Now, I think there are going to be a number of other industries. The insurance business is going to be transformed. I mean, I could create a great insurance company with just a surveillance and a smart contract with all my customers, and maybe somebody who's an actuary who knows how to kind of game the horses. And then and so insurance is going to change, and what most of government is insurance. And so government is going to go through a major change, major overhaul, and we're going to see much better governance per dollar that we pay in taxes, because governments are going to be able to take advantage of these new currencies, the new blockchain. So they don't need to have auditors and accountants and all that. They can build taxes right into the blockchain. They can create a smart contract with everyone who does business in their country. This is a major breakthrough, major opportunity for government to change. And governments are going to compete across border. There's this virtual layer, and then there's this physical layer. And the virtual layer is becoming more and more a part of our economic system. And so I'm very excited about what it can do with government. That's going to change everything. And these geographic borders are going to be less and less relevant. And it's all because of these technologies that have driven first the internet and now Bitcoin, and how they're driving this decentralization, this openness. And you're going to see changes in some of the industries in the world, and we're going to be big as consumers. We're going to be big beneficiaries of this. And I just read that only 1 in 14 Bitcoin wallets, or wallets of any crypto, are women. So when women cross the chasm, once they cross the chasm, this is going to be prevalent everywhere. And women control 80% of the retail shopping. And so when crypto becomes commonplace in retail, and once the women realize that they can save 2.5 to 4% every time they swipe their credit card, or they swipe their debit card, debit crypto card, yeah, like that, or just use their smartphone. That's going to open up the entire world market, and we're going to see the prevalence of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies spread throughout the world. And you're going to start to wonder why anybody ever used fiat currency that was tied to some political force, and they can print 9 trillion of them, and we're just supposed to sit there and go, oh, I guess our money just got diluted by 30%. It's, of course, been happening in Argentina and Nigeria for years. But this is one of the great breakthroughs where we have currency we can really trust. So I'm excited about this, clearly.
Yeah, for sure. And Tim, you actually touched upon a point that I also wanted to bring up about the globalization. And like from your experience, Tim and Alan, do you look for companies that are based close to where you are or established in, for example, less developed economies? And additionally to that, if they're run by women, for example, or so, I don't know, people of different ethnicities, is that an additional motive for you to come in and engage with that company and bring them on as part of your venture studio?
I am totally a free market capitalist, and I'm open to whoever. And we have a global system of venture capitalists around the world, the Draper Venture Network, and with offices in. There are probably 46 offices around the globe now. And so we have the ability, and I'm also an LP in a lot of groups in other parts of the world. We have the ability to invest in anything. We have a company called BitPesa, now called that uses crypto to trade Nigerian naira for Ugandan shillings, for whatever, all throughout Africa. And now it actually is penetrating Southeast Asia, and they're making it so that people can do business even if their country has a currency that is run by political whims, where they print a bunch of the money and the money's worth less and less. If I had a Nigerian naira 6 years ago, I would be, and I put it away, I'd be pretty disappointed right now. I think that Nigerian naira might have been worth, what is it? Might have been worth, I don't know, 30 to the dollar, and now it's 500 to the dollar. And to the Bitcoin, it's much worse. So yes, we're always looking for companies wherever they may be. We've funded a lot of women, mostly because we look and we say any woman who's willing to break out and start their own business, they've got to have something special to them. And so we do probably give a little bit of a favoritism to women. But we're kind of race blind. We're always looking for whatever the great entrepreneur is going to be, wherever they may come from. And that could be from Southeast Asia, it could be from Japan, it could be from England, could be from Africa, could be from any number of different places. And we just are looking for the opportunity. And that drives our business, and it drives the world. I mean, God, think of what we backed Hotmail and Skype. Think of what they have done for the world. They've opened it up. We can all now communicate. We can see each other on the screen. We can from anywhere in the world, and we do it basically for free. That was, before we funded Hotmail, it was very expensive to get a message to somebody in some other land. And before we funded Skype, a long distance phone call to Uganda would have cost $80 a minute, something like that. So this is a major change in the world, and so we feel like, boy, if we just keep backing these extraordinary entrepreneurs, whoever they are, wherever they may come from, we're going to improve the world. It's going to be better, and so that's the way I look at it. And I say, I don't, come with whatever history you have. Whatever background, whatever religion, whatever race, whatever sex, we're interested. You come to us with something that you've created, invented, driven. We're all over it.
Yeah, I was just going to further Tim's points. There's not much more to say than one just quick aside. I remember growing up, I had family all over the world, and my parents are immigrants, but I was born and raised here. I remember overhearing my parents discussing that the phone bill was more expensive than our mortgage. And I remember one of the big wins for us that we got my grandma a standalone device that let her Skype us the last few years before she passed away. And back then, this was a crazy piece of technology. All of our cousins each put in like $100 or $200. It was more expensive than a computer for her to have this device next to her bed, because she was bedridden, to be able to talk to us. And that's how much this world can change so quickly. And like Tim said, a great entrepreneur is a great entrepreneur no matter where they are in the world. And we're going to try and back them if we love them and their idea. And to further it even more, there's data that proves that investing globally in immigrants, in minorities, and in women actually earn you higher returns. So we, what Tim was saying about the favoritism a little bit, there's actual data that proves that they've had to overcome more obstacles to get to where they are, and it makes them, makes them better entrepreneurs. Just like a lot of times immigrants end up being better entrepreneurs, it's because they had to jump through these hoops to get here or to get to where they need to be that some of us didn't have to. So, we want to support them, and of course, selfishly, it's a good investment as well.
That sounds like a big trade secret.
Yeah, the first two ICOs that we backed were two of, other than the DAO, they were the first two ICOs, and they were both driven by women, and so we were pretty excited about that. It seems that the idea of an ICO, the idea of these cryptocurrencies, is a big deal for women who are focused on community and the quality of the community and how they all work together for a common goal. And that's where Tezos and Bancor came from. Kathleen Brightman at Tezos and is really quite extraordinary. And at Bancor, it's I just talked to her. What's that?
Galia, I think is her name.
Galia. Yeah, Galia. At Bancor, they were so extraordinary that I just backed them right there. And that was the beginning of two of the greatest ICOs in history. And they, those were women driven. So we're excited. My daughter started Halogen Ventures, and she only backs teams that have a woman in the founding team, and that has served her very well. And I think she was the first venture capitalist to just come out and do that. So I'm very proud of her.
Talking about the future and being first, I also wanted to ask you about the sort of development of investment into blockchain projects. So first we had the ICOs, then we moved on to venture capital and private. And now some of the companies are starting doing the IPOs, even though they're still at relatively early stages of their lives. What do you think, which direction do you think the So it's all going to go. Are more blockchain companies going to start behaving like the traditional companies, or we're going to see a different pattern? Alan, can we start with you, please?
I think Tim could probably talk to the more traditional side. Well, he's much more experienced with companies having gone public and all of that. But what I will say, I think that I actually end up talking a lot to groups who are digitizing securities as well. And I think there's like two sides, right? I always have this dichotomy because I'm much more passionate probably about the DeFi side that completely goes around all regulation. And it's just like, let's do what's right, regardless of which jurisdiction and which government and whatever. But then there's also this side of, hey, we live in the United States. We have to obviously make sure that we're compliant and we deal with everything. And there's companies who are digitizing securities to make the process better for the consumer and better for the startup, because it's offensive how much it costs for the startup and that people aren't allowed to participate. It's not okay. So I love that we are on both ends of the spectrum, making it better for the consumer and making it better for the startups. I think that depending on the risk tolerance of the startup, where they're based in the world and all that, they're prepping themselves, and Stage, of course, prepping themselves for different things, whether it's like the DAO model or the ICO model, or doing a digital security, or a company that's much bigger, like Tim would be more familiar with, like a Robinhood, that going public or something like that. I think Tim could add a lot more to it.
I don't recommend going public to anybody right now, unless your company's worth 10 billion or maybe Robinhood, $20 billion, because it's so expensive. The regulators have made it so expensive to go public that it's really not worth it. So some form of tokenization, some system. I do know that we've done a few things at Meet the Drapers with crowdfunding. That has been very effective for smaller investments. But at the largest investments are coming from those large funds, and that tends to be an easier way to get your money than trying to go public and be subject to the whims of the public investor, and also subject to the rules that the Sarbanes-Oxley rules that have come down so hard on businesses. We used to be able to get companies public if they were worth 50 million or above, and maybe they were doing only 20 million in revenues. Now it's not even worth it until you're about $5 billion market cap. So I'm not highly recommending that in any way as a path for an entrepreneur. And by the time a company's public, it's already past the growth stage. It's become a common knowledge for everyone, and making money in the public markets is a little bit more of a crapshoot. You don't get it kind of runs way up the way it is now, with the public getting all excited, and then it runs way down with the public getting all excited. And so for an investor, I think you really want to be either you invest in private companies, or you buy tokens, but be careful about buying tokens. I'm very excited about all of the new innovations that are happening because this new technology, or I guess it's sort of a platform of technologies, Bitcoin, the blockchain, smart contracts. I'm excited about what they're all doing and what they're going to bring to the world. All these new ideas that have stemmed from the ability to do an airdrop, or the ability to have a perfect ledger, or the ability to create a deal in cyberspace that just pays the right person at the right time. I know Hollywood could use that. Some very honest system. So you ask the question a little bit about ICO versus IPO, but the answer is there are lots of new ways of creating liquidity, new ways of creating business model. There are lots. This is an evolving market, and it's exciting for me because I get to see venture capital change one more time. So this is going to be really fun, and I think we're experiencing it now, and all the Draper entities we're driving that now. We're driving that change. Things I'm hoping to do long term. I'm hoping to be able to raise money all in Bitcoin or crypto of any kind, and then invest it all in Bitcoin, and then have those entrepreneurs put the money or spend the money on their employees and suppliers all in Bitcoin. And then I want, if something great happens, I want the smart contract to drop all the money into my LP wallets, into all the wallets that are supposed to get it. Now, right now, the U.S. government's very far behind on its thinking for that kind of a business, but it's frictionless, and you don't have to keep going back and forth to the banks, the accountants, the auditors, the transfer agents, whoever is out there. You can actually have all of it done completely frictionlessly on the cloud. So I'm thinking this is one of the great changes that could happen in the world today, where we're all part of one system that isn't tied to political systems, and that the various governments compete for us, and they figure out how they can charge taxes on that crypto business. And those are some of the things that I think have to happen moving forward. And we've got to have all that happen, but we've got to wrap all the laws around it. But what's really interesting is, the U.S. is trying not to be heavy-handed, but they kind of are, because of all the legal work that's been done since 1933, and all that has been piled on, and the regulators have piled on. So you in London have this new group that's saying, well, look, we want the financial world back here. They've had it in New York for a long time. They got it in the Silicon Valley. We want it back here. So they're deregulating. They're actually creating fewer regulations, and they're allowing more to happen. And that's going to change the way governments start to operate. They're going to say, wait, we're losing all of that economic value. How did they get it? Well, they deregulated. We can deregulate. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen over it's probably the next 10 years.
And just a very quick, short question right at the end. I just want to ask you, if, for example, I'm a startup and I brought you a brilliant idea, what advice would you give me to take my company to that next level? Just a brief answer. Great. Alan, can we start?
So one thing I didn't mention on the last question is that with the tokens via stocks or convertible notes or whatever a company decides to do at the early stage, we're very, very in it for the long term from Draper Gorham Home, and I think obvious, and on the Draper Associates side, we're early stage venture investors. So I love all of this stuff. But remember, when we invest in a company, it's not to get the tokens and sell them immediately or do anything like that. That's not our plan. That's not what we do. So when I do come to companies at the very early stage, to answer your question now, for us, there's a little bit of it's not, I wouldn't say like a magic or something like that, but it's just really is the people, because we're so early. When we engage with a company, we're writing their first check into the company. It could be a $25,000, $50,000 check, and we're the only investors in that company at the beginning, helping them get off the ground. So we want to see that the people can execute, that the people can do something But more than that, we want to know that they can change and grow and shuck and jive as things come, because what they show us the first time we meet them will not be their product 6 months from now. And if they were to be that sort of thick-headed to where they think that would be the case, then they're probably not the right entrepreneurs at that early stage. So for me, I want to see that. I want to see that they can move. I want to see that they're solving a real problem, of course, and they're super passionate about it, and that I like the people that, we're going to assume we're trapped in a room for the next 10 years. I want to like the person I'm trapped in the room with for the next 10 years. And then the next thing that we have this internal talk, Joseph, my partner, and I always have this one talk once we really love a company. We go like, what disproportionate value can we add to this company? Like, how do we throw gasoline on the fire? If it's a company we love, but we have no clue how to help them, it's not a good fit for what we do, because we're super hands-on. We kind of have to be hands-on at that early stage. And if we don't know what we're going to do, then we can't help them. And we have to have that conversation like, hey, I love you, but I don't know how to help you. And so for us, it's a little bit of how can we sort of, like I said, throw gasoline on the fire. We have our conference. We have a big media presence. We are, experts in automated marketing, and Joseph is very, very hands-on behind the scenes in helping our companies really scale. And we do so many things like that we need to know what the next steps are before we engage, because we're early stage entrepreneurs ourselves, and we want to be able to help the companies. So for me, that's where the excitement comes from. Like, is there something here that can really, really grow? Like, to go back to what you said earlier, Tim talked about community, and then how some of those entrepreneurs are really, really passionate about the community. Something one of our favorite portfolio companies always says, Lunar Crush always says, there's no crypto without community. And then they measure the engagement of the communities, and they help those groups engage their communities and do things like that with their technology. And I think that those passionate entrepreneurs, if they get that at the beginning, if they know that they're building an exciting community, or that people are starting to flock to them, it's really, really super exciting, and we want to amplify it, right? Amplify is the big word we use. So that's I think I went around it a little bit, but
And Amplify is also the incubator you worked with way back.
Yeah, so Tim was an investor in an incubator called Amplify, an accelerator out here in Southern California. And about 10 years ago or so ago, they invested in a previous company of mine, and that's where I met Tim. So we use the word amplify a lot out of love, because when we sort of started, we pointed at a lot of things that they did and how they did it right, and aside from that, also following what Boost VC does, Adam Draper, Tim's son, I've gone to almost every one of their demo days at this point, and was a huge fan of what they did and how they did it. And they're partly responsible for some of my education in the crypto space. I met BitPesa, that company you mentioned earlier, at the demo day where they launched. So like it's an exciting full circle.
Yeah, and I look for, what were you saying, Alex? Got to wrap up?
We are going to have to wrap up soon, so if you could, Tim, briefly just give us like 1-2 sentence view of what you think, and then that fortunately will have to be it.
Good. Well, when we invest in these companies now, we want to make sure that we're aligned with the entrepreneur in whatever way we can. So in doing that alignment, sometimes we take stock in crypto, so that, because we're not sure which one's going to take off, and I don't even think the entrepreneur always knows whether their company or their token is going to be a big deal. What we look for big ideas, big markets, where entrepreneur can kind of wedge in there, and he or she's got a lot of passion for what they do. And that's kind of where we're hoping to go. And I mentioned the banker is dressed this way. Well, it turns out they are never dressed this way because I'm wearing a Bitcoin tie. I think they'd be fired. Anyway, it was great being on your show. Thank you very much. It was a treat.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.